Hey everyone, it's Anya here at ourgabled.home, and in today's video I'm going to share with you our traditional Christmas Eve dinner. As far as I can remember, we've been eating this every year, but only for Christmas Eve. And it's a very special recipe that originated in, I hope I'm saying this right, Silesia, which is a part of Poland, but at some time it used to be part of Germany, and my father's family is from that area, and there is a recipe that has so many different names that I didn't even know which one to call it. Sometimes it is called brown sauce, sometimes it's called beer sauce, sometimes it is called gingerbread sauce, and sometimes it is called Polish sauce. So I'm just going to call it gingerbread sauce or beer sauce. And when you're looking at the ingredients, don't be intimidated or put off by the ingredients or the type of ingredients that go into this recipe, because trust me, this is so delicious, you're gonna love it. Here I have a copy of the recipe as my grandmother has written it down, and it's really hard to read. And what I love about this recipe, is that it has no measurements. For example, it starts with cover the bottom of a pot with onion rings. Of course, it depends on how big your pot is and how thick your slices of onions are. So what I have done is, over the years, I have come up with fairly reliable measurements that you can actually put in a real recipe, and that is what I'm going to show you today. So here's the real recipe. It is in German. I think that the ingredients really demonstrate that this is probably a peasant's dish, because when you look at what goes into this recipe, you'll just think that, okay, they used whatever they had in the kitchen at the time. So let's look at the ingredients, and the main ingredient that I just want to talk about here is a non-alcoholic malt beer or malted beer. It's really sweet. So that is what goes into this recipe. I have a source here, a distributor who gets it to me if I ordered early enough. If you can't find it, if it's too much effort and it's just not going to happen, I recommend you use a really dark malty beer like a stout or like a Guinness. That will also work in this recipe. I'm going to be using this. Maybe I'm going to add a little bit of this depending on how my sauce turns out, but so this is the main ingredient, which is why it's called beer sauce. And then what we'll need is ginger cake, and when I have a recipe, I'll be linking it. Until then, I am using something that I can buy locally, but I will also link sources in the box below this video where you can find a gingerbread, but maybe you have your own family recipe and you can preferably use that. We need a lemon, preferably an organic one or one from your own garden that has not been sprayed with any pesticides. And we need some ground cloves, we need a lot of butter, we need parsley root, and because I have not been able to find parsley root here in the United States, I'm always using parsnip. Sounds very similar. I think it tastes very similar, so we're going to use that. I'm adding some sugar. Even though this is sweet, I'm adding a little bit more sugar. This is coconut palm sugar, that is why it's so dark, and then some salt. And if you're wondering what this is a piece of dried dark whole grain bread. My own one. I have a recipe. This is what I'm using, and a bay leaf. So let's get cooking. So I'm using one medium onion here, and we will cut this in onion rings. As I said, the recipe calls for covering the bottom of a pot with onion rings. Put those right in here. And right over that, we put some ground cloves and the ginger cake. And I'm not going to use the whole one. I will only use about half of this. And we'll cut that in smaller pieces. Put that right in the pot here. Next, we'll add the piece of dark bread, about a teaspoon of salt, a good teaspoon of sugar, lemon slices, one bay leaf. The recipe calls for a good dash of vinegar and the malted beer. I'm using 3 of these smaller bottles. Or you can just use 1 big bottle of this stout beer. What is this? Can't even see how much this is. Half a pint maybe. And the parsley root. And then we'll cook everything until all of these ingredients are soft. And my grandmother wanted to make sure that we know that this will boil over worse than milk. So you want to stay with it and watch it so it doesn't boil all the way over. And now we'll pass everything through a strainer. So first I'll let all the soupy part go through, and then I'm gonna press whatever is left here in the colander. And I like to do this in the sink because it can be a little bit messy, but as you can see, I'm pressing it, passing it through the colander here. And then I put everything back in my big pot. Back in the big pot, all you need to do is season it to taste. So I'm gonna try a little bit. And definitely add the butter here. You can add a little bit more salt. You can add a little bit more lemon. So here's your brown sauce, your beer sauce, your gingerbread sauce, your Polish sauce, whatever you would like to call it. And now you're probably wondering how in the world you're going to eat this. And this is really only part part of our traditional Christmas Eve dinner, what we do is we peel and boil potatoes in salt water. We also heat up these white sausages in the sauce very gently so they don't fall apart or pop. And then we serve it with sauerkraut on the side. So it's a very traditional Silesian Christmas Eve dish. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. I upload a new video every week. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen, and I'll see you in the next video.